So, first things first, Jim, how are you?
I'm doing well. I am on Christmas holidays now. It begins. The work year is over and the it never stops because I'm here. We're on this sort of like 24/7 train right now where we're going from like, all of our extensive freaking day jobs and parenting and all of that. And then like nighttime rolls around and it's like, cool, time to do a bunch of interviews for the album coming out. So it's, yeah, busy but good, man. How are you?
Do you feel kind of schizophrenic in that way? That's not the right word, but do you kind of feel like you have to uh, kind of divide your mental space? I
We
don't
do
know if
have
that
to
makes sense.
compartmentalize a little bit because it's like
That's the word.
it's otherwise you get kind of whiplash going from one to the other. It's kind of hard. I remember that like when we first went on our first long European tour in 2015, the first time we'd done the whole long bus tour away for a month, come back. I had a 6-month-old at the time, and coming
Mm.
back immediately from like the intensity of touring and live shows and meeting people and fans and all this cool stuff, and then coming home and it's just like bam, screaming, nappies, and no sleep, back to real life. The whiplash is insane. It's the same for, like work life has to be different than band life and stuff. You have to wear a lot of hats. So,
Yeah.
if you get comfortable taking off those hats.
How much does Jim change when he's on stage compared to as you mentioned, just being a normal person at home?
At home, I'm still pretty much the same. Like
Okay.
because naturally, the me that's on stage is kind of like a kooky dude, but you're having a laugh and then emotionally expressing myself musically is pretty honest. It's who I am. My work it's a lot more kind of like quiet. I stay pretty quiet when I'm working, but the rest of the time, it's all just me, man.
But that's an interesting thought because what 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 gave rise to being so open about your feelings, about your emotions, and sharing those through the music?
That's
Has
interesting.
that always been a part of you?
That's a cool question. I don't know. Um, I know for a fact, like I'm a very sensitive person. That's just it's one of my traits. I'm affected deeply by emotional stuff. I'm affected deeply by music. I cry a lot to music. It just sort of hits me, not for any reason, not like for like,
Sure.
hey, the story is sad. It's just like here's this full body impactful thing, and I find myself crying. That happens quite a lot. Um, and I get hurt by stuff pretty easily too. And so I don't watch a lot of horror films for that reason. Things stay with me. I'm just really sensitive, so it's like I guess like developing that trait, which is an innate trait to me, and kind of turning it into something useful over the years, like through music and stuff like that, has been a natural kind of progression. And the more honest I wanted to be in the music, the better the music became, that kind of thing. Um, but yeah, I don't know. It probably just stems from who I am personally. I also
Mm.
kind of don't, as an Australian, I don't have a lot of time for bullshit. Um, we kind of like straight talk and just being honest is kind of part of who we are. Now, that doesn't generally extend to like emotional honesty. There's a lot of kind of like bottled emotions in Australian male
Sure.
culture, especially. But if you combine like my general sensitivity with the idea that I don't have any time for bullshit, then that's probably the combination that leads us here.
How did you find music then to this vehicle through which you could express those things?
I joined. I like my parents wanted to send me to like a private school, like quite
Okay.
a prestigious and we were not in the tax bracket to make that happen, if that makes sense.
Sure.
And so they put me up for all of these scholarships and things for school, and one of them was kind of like all right, we'll put him for that one as well. Go, go, go. Um, and that one was for like a choir where we sing in like at a cathedral. We train every single day, every single morning before school
Okay.
for a couple of hours. You would train on Friday afternoons after school. You would train on Saturdays. You would sing at weddings, and on Sundays, morning and night, you would sing at the cathedral. So it was like every day, and it sounded hard, but they're like, we'll put them up for that one anyway. And I got in, much to their surprise, because it's not like I was actively singing a lot all the time, and sort of that helped pay for my exorbitant school fees over the years. And that's sort of where the musical connection kind of started. But I didn't really start writing original music properly until my late teens, and that's
Okay.
when it kind of clicked to me that I wanted to kind of write some metal and some heavy stuff, and do all that. Really connected with the kind of music that really that I really loved. So yeah, it's just because of that sort of chance of me finding that music became kind of the avenue, because I also did ballet as a kid. I was like a
Okay.
dancer, and I had a whole bunch of different, like I did drama and all that fun stuff, studied some music theater, did all of those things, and they were all different avenues of the same thing, which is like, I'm an emotional and sensitive person, I'm going to express them this way. And yeah, it just funneled into music over the years.
Can you say it wasn't until you were 18, 19 where you started to kind of turn them into actual songs and kind of hone in on that? But what did songwriting give you?
Songwriting basically gave me the opportunity to fuel my baby ego. I think that at the time, but particularly like I was sort of 16 to 18, because I remember the first,
Okay.
like my first, outside of my silly high school band with close friends who I love dearly, my first sort of real band outside of that original music doing that thing was a band called Arcane. And I remember like our first shows that we played together. I wasn't actually 18, so I wasn't of legal age to be in the venues that we were playing. You know, starting out. So like they had to kind of get me in through the back and then play the show and then go out and stuff like that. But so like I'm writing original music at 17, have no idea what I'm doing. I've heard freaking Dream Theater's scenes from a memory once and going, cool, I'm gonna do like concept stuff and write these stories and stuff. But like, because I had no world experience and no life experience, I didn't really have much to draw from. So you draw from like dark, scary stuff, and trying to kind of, and so that's where I was kind of going with this sort of nameless, angsty kind of thing. And so the songwriting journey that I've been on, I'm going somewhere with this. The songwriting journey that I've been on has been one of basically not only it becoming a reflection of my life experience and the sort of wisdom and the change and growth that has provided for me over the years, but also like growing alongside my artistry and using my artistry as a something to learn about myself as well. Like, I mean, with Charcoal Grace, with everything being an expulsion of all the stuff we went through over the last few years, that was kind of like, it's actually given me pause to kind of reflect and go, that's awful, that sucks, but then look at my own experience and go like, I'm kind of disappointed in myself for these reasons now. It gives me more of an observation of myself from the outside when I have something to look at for the past that I've been creating. So yeah, my songwriting has grown with me and I've grown with my songwriting, and it's been a long and beautiful journey, I think.
But that's interesting then, because if we take Charcoal Grace, and there's obviously some separation now between kind of the lockdowns and where we are now in the world. Do you already see a different you when you listen to or hear a different you when you listen to the album?
Yeah, absolutely. And which is good, because I was deeply fucking sad.
Fair enough.
And very angry. I'm still a little bit angry, but that's all right. I think that like what was fascinating is going and doing this tour earlier in the year, probably last year, depending on when this comes out, I guess. But like earlier this year, we were touring across Europe and through Latin America and a little tiny bit of the US for a festival there for Prog Power USA. And in the lead up to that, I was still feeling that kind of disconnected despondence towards everything. And not knowing if we were going to go and play to no one, because it's been so long. Like, do we even exist? I had no idea. And then we showed up and the shows went magically well. It was a beautiful experience. It kind of reminded me that like, hey, this is what we do, and we connect with people, and our music helps people. And so what that's left me with now is the idea that I kind of want to do more of that. So I'm feeling a little bit more positive when it comes to that experience.
But you have
So
a tour plan for the US, so that's good.
Here we do, and we're ready to go. We're going to bring this sad fucking catharsis album all the way across the United States. No, it'll be great. It'll be great. I'm looking forward to it.
No, but I do think it's something that a lot of people went through. Obviously, when all of a sudden there's a lot of silence around you, you do start to contemplate, and you do start to take stock of where your life is. And then, luckily, as a musician, you have a way to channel that, I suppose. But for you, if you think about that period where the songwriting for Charcoal Grace started, did you know you were writing an album, or did you have kind of a concept in mind, or was this just kind of a purge of what you wanted to get out?
Well, it's kind of a combination of both, because a lot of the little ideas conceptually came throughout the pandemic. But like, because I'll have these little tiny ideas lyrically where I'll go like, oh, that's kind of nice, or fuck you, I just want to go to sleep and now I have to go and get my phone and write this shit down. You know, like that kind of stuff. And obviously Sam had a whole bunch of stuff cooking because he wanted to go and do some stuff that was separate from Caligula. He just wanted to go like, okay, I got to just go and do this. And that's where his single Flicker came out of, which is a great song. It's one of my favorites. And but he also was building all these other ideas and going, yeah, I could do this, could do this. And then he just kind of realized over time, it's like, actually, this is really fucking good for Caligula Source. So we, you know, put it aside for that. The fact is, though, in the midst of the pandemic, when we could have been going like, yeah, let's take this time to write and do all this stuff, we couldn't. I had nothing in me then. I had no desire to create, and I felt like I had nothing to say musically anymore. It was basically like me kind of in the pit, end of my rope kind of shit. It was really, really dark time. And yeah, so that's why coming into actually writing the album, when we actually decided, yes, we are writing an album, it is what we are doing, I came in with that same trepidation I talked about with touring, where I thought, can I do this anymore? It's been a long time. I feel like the person I was before COVID died. I'm not that guy. I don't know if I can do this. And then, you know, starting to work with Sam and kind of talking back and forth ideas, bouncing ideas off, hearing what Josh and Dale were bringing creatively to the songwriting process as well, because this is the first album where we've had like everyone on board, which has been so sick in terms of writing. And it all just went and just accelerated and just took off. And it was just like, oh, okay, great. We can do this. I am that guy. That guy isn't dead. It's fine. Yeah. So like, just, you know, to sort of draw light on what you said, it's like during the time where you would think like, yeah, okay, now we can reflect and really write something that's about us and stuff like that. There was nothing. I was gone during that time.
I had a somewhat similar experience where the motivation was gone, and it's kind of like you felt the pressure to at least to learn a new language, to work out, to be productive in a sense. And for some reason, for a lot of people, that just wasn't the case. The mind wasn't in the right place to do a lot of that stuff.
The more you heard it, the less likely you were to fucking do it. It's just like, dude, like, yeah, I should work out. You're absolutely right. Also, in a very real way, go fuck yourself. I'm
Exactly.
like, we're all gonna die. So yeah, and there was, interestingly, just to bring it to Charcoal Grace for a second, that's actually what the song Golem is actually about. Where, you know, being in that moment and knowing that I'm trapped. And I've just seen, like I said to you, the first gigs that I played in original music, I was 17 years old. I am now 37. I've been doing this for 20 fucking years. And so I've been building my craft and working on songwriting and building our reputation. And Sam's been fucking amazing. And then all of this time has been put into doing it. All my eggs are in this little fragile basket. And then all of a sudden it just goes. And it's like, so touring is gone. You may not ever do it again. Music might be completely different from now on, and good luck to you. And the expectation is on us all of a sudden to come in and go like, wow, it's going to be a great time for you to write then, isn't it? And I'm like, well, no, because I'm dead. So that's kind of what was the inspiration for the song Golem. But of course, again, as writing, it, like I said, it gives you an opportunity to reflect and look at yourself as well. And so the song Golem is also about me looking at myself and wishing that I could have done something then, or that I could have been more resilient, and understanding that the people who were wanting us to write that music and saying those things online of like, can't wait to see what artists come up with next, that I was so angry about, were just reaching for the same thing. You know, they were reaching for the comfort that they get and the love that they feel based on the music, and that's all they wanted. That's all I wanted. We wanted the same fucking thing. We were trying to put our feet on the earth in the way that we are used to, and it was impossible. So yeah, that's Golem.
If we talk about the music of Golem, then how do you write? Do you know what the music is going to be when you write the lyrics? How does a song like that kind of I don't know the right word, but fit to the music, or synergize? How do you synergize the music with the lyrics? Is what I'm trying to say.
No, it's a great question. I try my best not to write full, complete lyrics ever. Like I said, you know, I'll have those snippet ideas and I'll write them down, because often those tiny ideas will be something that's like a spark for something bigger. But the lyrics have to come from the song. Like the music has to tell me what it has to say. You know what I mean? I know that sounds a bit kind of woo and kooky and whatever, but there is really a process to this. It's not spiritual. It's like, it's a real fucking, I sit down and I fucking do this. Where it's like, you get these ideas, like they're not full songs. Sam and I, Dale and I, Josh and I, we're all getting together. We're throwing ideas back and forth. We're doing it all online, so it's like, here's this, I've produced this, bang, throw it my way. Wow. And I will hum to myself. I'll think like, what suits this? Like, what kind of vocal tone? Is this a big punchy thing? Is this more of a soaring thing? Is it a sobby gentle thing? Is it a whispered kind of spoken thing? Trying to figure out what suits it best, and then kind of work with that basic framework and create a little vocal shape over the top of it and just sing whatever, like just vowel shapes and stuff, like weird fucking Simlish nonsense. And like that often will land me on like a rhythmic hook, because I always look for where the melody locks in rhythmically, because that the rhythm of the vocal part is so important in terms of what makes it memorable and hooky. And then there might be one or two vowel shapes that I land on that makes sense, and I go like, oh, that a word could come out of that, and then that word comes out, and then it's like bam, and then it all kind of, the process begins. So it's like, I always try and find the melody, the rhythm, the hook, the core of it first, and then we write lyrics around that, because then it's like, now I can tell the story around the structure of this song, rather than trying to me shoehorn my beautiful Shakespearean poetry over the top of this progressive thing,
But what I find fascinating then, if you listen to the Charcoal Grace songs, the 4-part kind of magnum opus, I don't know if we can call it that,
the suite.
yeah, sweet, that's a good one. But does it? I'm sure you don't plan something like that, right? You just start with a song, and then it starts to kind of mold into this magnum, this huge piece of music and story.
Interestingly, it was actually the opposite.
Okay.
In that we basically went, like, we weren't married to the idea, but we were really excited and going like, hey, what's one thing that we haven't adventured with musically? Because we always try and do something different. We always try and go like, hey, what's next? And we haven't done like a side length song. We hadn't done a full 24-minute long big boy. Like, we've dabbled in it. We dipped our toe in it with Graves. It's like 15 minutes. We've got a bunch of 10-minute long songs, that kind of thing, but we've never done the whole marathon. And so we went like, you know what? That might be a fun thing to toy with. We even toyed with doing it as like an EP and just going like, hey, maybe we just do a side length song as an EP, a couple of covers on the B-side, see how that goes. And that didn't work out because we started getting caught up in writing the other stuff. But we did have the idea of doing this big thing. And so we looked at the scope of it, and we tried to kind of think of what we were going to do. But all of these ideas were so versatile and so varied that it was like, because we don't write start to finish, we have ideas and structures come together. We're realizing that these are all so disparate and kind of far removed. And then Sam had the idea to kind of construct it into 4 parts, and that each of those parts would have its own identity, musically speaking. And so, yeah, so that would mean that you've got the first section, Pray, which is quite dark and kind of like almost like a there's a term for this, an overture of sorts for the whole thing. And then each identity, World Without is a lot softer, and then you've got Vigil, which is very intimate. It's like basically a guitar in a room. And then the big nasty outro and the anger and the tragedy of Give Me Hell is at the end as well. So they're full of musical themes that repeat throughout the entire thing. All of them are full of each other. Like it is definitely a song that continues and relates to itself, but they are so separate, 4 separate identities within those tracks. And I think that constraint, putting those constraints around it, was what made it so it's so easy to write relatively. It was still a fucking challenge, but like so much easier to write, I should say.
Are those words like Pray, Vigil, Give Me Hell, A World Within, were those then the key words, as you mentioned, or some of the key words when as you were thinking about what type of lyrics to put to these songs? Were those the key words that popped up?
I think sometimes they happen backwards as well, where it's like the title of a song will be reflective of where it lands, So it's like if we've got, here's this song, the Vigil, for example, it's like an acoustic song. It's sort of this thing, and I'm picturing it a certain way, and I'm hearing it, and then we've recorded a demo of it, and I hear it back, and I go like, okay, this is at this point in the story. It really does sound to me, or it is starting to sound to me like a funeral song, or like someone singing at a funeral, singing at a wake. And it kind of immediately went like, okay, well, that's where that's placed in the story. I get where that is in the structure, and of course the word vigil came out of that. you know, pray is a reference to one of the lyrics in the song. It's reflective of itself. Sometimes it's really simple like that, but oftentimes I don't like to start with a title because it kind of, you don't want to be too far up your own ass creatively. You don't want to kind of go like, I'm funneling myself down this myopic kind of view. It's like you want the song to take shape and then go like, well, how do I best represent this song in a title? And then the title comes out.
And the last question about these four parts of the song is, do you have the live show in mind at all when you think about these songs and when you're writing these songs?
We try not to. I mean, like energy wise, yeah, we try and take, like, one of the things during Rise Radiant that we were writing about was just like, we'd come off the back of a whole bunch of touring and we're just like, okay, the vibe is we want to go for shorter songs, punchy songs. We want positivity, inspiration, and energy. Those were the things. So we wanted to try and, again, I talked about constraints before. It's one of the most important things we do creatively. It's like we make sure that we have some constraints around what we're doing, because then we can fill that creatively. And it is, as much as it's a limitation, it's also like, it means that it facilitates the writing process a little bit more efficiently, which is great. So we had the idea of it being live and energetic and stuff when we were writing that album. Not necessarily going like, this is going to be so sick, we're going to do it because me, but like the new album, not at all. To the point where it's like you look at it and you go like, fuck, how are we going to do this? You just sort of go, oh no. So, you know, it's like, I don't know how we're going to get Charcoal Grace the Sweet into a live set ever. I'm sure we're going to have to at some point, but I can't see it happening, you know, because especially, you know, if we're touring on the new album, but one of the singles is more than 10 minutes long. We've just made a huge fucking mistake is what we've done.
But what I like about this type of music, and obviously it's kind of inherent, or doesn't have to be, but it is very, it's inherent to some extent to prog music, is the immersiveness of the music. Because when I listen to the album, it's one you really get into. The music, it all fits, it all weaves into each other. Are you a big fan of those type of records in terms of listening to it from beginning to end rather than having separate songs?
I fell in love with this. I started like a vinyl collection. I haven't dug into it in ages because, you know, it's just life is pain. But like you know, when I started doing that, that's when I kind of accidentally stumbled across the joy of album listening. I used to do it a lot when I was in university and stuff, because I would be catching public transport all the time, and so I would have like hour and a half travel to uni and then back again. And so I would have like back at the time, because this was before we had the iPods and all of this children's what I had was I had a Discman, and so like on the, you know, listening to my like a CD and just listening to fucking like you know, I said Scenes from a Memory before. I used to listen to A Change of Seasons. There's another side length track, a lot of Dream Theater, a lot of stuff like that back in the day, and just like listening to full albums. And then I kind of stopped doing that in the era of the playlist and stuff, you know. So I when starting the vinyl collection, it was just kind of like, now I put this on and I listen to the whole thing, and what it meant was I all of a sudden I'm listening to these like classic Australian albums like John Farnham's Whispering Jack, and all of a sudden going like, fucking side 2 has some fucking bangers that I've never heard on here. This is fucking so yeah, I do love that. And also, like I said, with me being so sensitive and emotional and stuff like that, I like to be taken on an emotional journey with an album. I don't like to just pick and choose my favorites. I want to have and that's why it's so important when we structure an album, when we put it together, we want it to have a natural flow. We want it to be, you know, we want sales to come out of the end of Charcoal Grace, because Charcoal Grace has been emotionally punishing for 24 minutes, and we just need a minute. We just need a fucking minute to relax and just have some softness there.
Well, that's interesting that you mentioned sales, because that's one I kind of put a note next to, because what was the starting point then for the song? Was that the intention? Okay, we need kind of a palate cleanser is maybe not the right way to describe it, but we need to set the mood now for the rest of the album.
Much like the rest of the writing process, it's like these little ideas that are being created and sent back and forth and jammed together, so to speak, feed in different directions. Some of them end up in some songs, some don't. This one kind of fed itself into a softer song, that theme of the da 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 da, that whole rolling kind of guitar part that Sam sent through, and then I gave it that kind of offbeat pulse vocal that is just sitting in through all the verses, and then it's just like, okay, this is leading us somewhere. Sam took that and ran into a chorus sounding thing, and I realized that it had this kind of soft Steven Wilson-y kind of tone to it. I'm like, I would love to do some vocal harmonies there as like a little choir singing the chorus, and it just led to be a short, gentle song. So it just happened because it happened, and because it was what we were writing, and it was nice. And then we actually were arming and ahhing about the placement of the songs on the record. Like originally we were thinking about going from the end of Give Me Hell directly into the Storm Chaser. And until we were listening to it in full, and then we just kind of felt like it wasn't right, and we swapped Sails and the Storm Chaser around, and now it has that lovely little reprieve, and then you have the Storm Chaser into mute to finish. So yeah, so it was a process, but it's never deliberate. Like I said, it's not like, we're missing a single here, let's write a fucking
But I wrote down from that song a line, never forget the way we felt. Why is it important to remember? And I'm obviously, as somebody who likes history, I kind of get it, but
I mean, this is very much, it's like one of those songs that is unexpectedly a bit sad, because it is ultimately a song about acceptance. Sales is like, some things you can't change, and you just kind of got to go with it, and you can't fight those things. It's best to kind of, and that's a nice sentiment until you realize that it's really about the fact that, we're all fucking dead. And it does have some of that cynicism in it as well, of like watching ourselves present the worst of us, and behave the worst possible way in the worst possible circumstances. And it does, and then having to roll with that as well. So it does have kind of a despondence to it as well. But I mean, it also references to, climate change and our abysmal kind of approach to all of that. And this is pretty fucking dark, isn't it? The minute I started talking about it, I'm like, oh, fuck. But learning about the ways that we failed. Sorry, but yeah, learning about the ways that we failed, like remembering it's the only way we learn. You know what I mean? We're here to, like I've said before, to kind of mark the way for the next generation. And if we're able to remember before, because they'll grow up not knowing what the pandemic was like, the next generation after this.
Sure.
So if we can remember and communicate that to them, then maybe they won't next time engage in being the fucking worst versions of ourselves, and they might look back and be embarrassed on our behalf and ashamed about how we behaved. And the earth keeps telling us to fucking just stop, and and we just don't.
It's I've been accused many a time of being a cynical bastard, and especially when the pandemic hit, and seeing those people fighting over toilet rolls and that kind of stuff, that brings out kind of such a sadness. But then being able to turn something like that into music, and kind of something people can enjoy and connect over. I mean, that must be especially now that you are. I don't know if you have played any of those songs live, but that must be a nice kind of turnaround in terms of the origins of where something like that begins, and then what eventually you can do with it.
Yeah, it definitely does. We have played Golem live a couple of times when we were touring with Devin Townsend in Australia, which was a treat. But that's it. No one else but you has heard the rest.
Okay.
So like, I think.
What do you hope that people hear in it then?
I hope that people do hear hope in it, actually, now that I like it, because again, it is definitively the darkest, angriest, and saddest stuff we've ever written. But I would like to think that it is a cathartic version of that, and that it is, people can listen to a song like The World Breathes With Me and hear the conclusion that despite all of the differences and the anger and the self-hatred and the outward hatred and all of the stuff that we've been through, that like the one thing that we can't deny being connected by is the fact that we're alive together on this planet at the same time. Like we're connected by breath, we're connected by the fact that we are part of a fucking ecosystem. We're connected by breath, one another, and we're connected to the world through each other. So it's like, how are we going to keep going this way? So I'm hoping that people hear the positivity in that, and they hear the cautionary tale of the story of Charcoal Grace, or they hear how fucking angry I am with the Storm Chaser, and kind of, maybe we do better next time, that kind of thing. But ultimately, I think it is a positive album. I think it does have a a tone of reconciliation and a tone of sort of reconciliation of self and others, and understanding ourselves a little bit better, and maybe trying to understand other people a little bit better. I hope that they take that away from that.
It's nice that you say that, because I think it's the final line from "The World Breathes with Me," but so this is who we are. I really like that lyric, because there's no way around it. I mean, we can be happy or sad about how human beings are behaving, but this is humanity. This is apparently what we do. So
literally, the opening line of the album is a very sarcastic, cynical fucking thing. Just going, but I promise it's nice. But no, it's an acceptance thing. It's one of those things like, okay, well, this is who we are. Fine then.
Last question. You're going back on tour, and as you mentioned, at the moment you're trying to figure out how to play some of those songs live.
Christ, yes.
But what are you looking forward to in terms of touring now? Because obviously you've toured since the pandemic, but what is it that you missed most of it, and what made it what's the grammar? What did it make you what did it make you realize about how important playing live and being in front of people is for you?
It's essential for me, and it was nice to be reminded that I'm very capable of it, because again, like you get the imposter syndrome stuff as well when you're separate from doing something for a long time. There's like performance and being an entertainer, essentially, of one kind or another, is something that has been really natural to me, and it's something that I need for my own energy. And so it was really lovely to go and be able to do that. So I definitely missed that. But I think, I also miss just the time with the lads. It's like, because touring is really fucking hard. It's really, really hard, and pretty depressing some of the time. And having a supported group of people is essential. Like, you got to lift each other up, both in terms of being able to perform and also just to get through day to day, because it's fucking hard. And so we have this really strong connection with the guys, and we had that taken from us, and we weren't able to kind of to have that experience. And I've missed that a lot as well. But I think most importantly, we've never been to the United States before in terms of like a proper fucking headline tour. That we were supposed to do it in 2020, and then things happened. And we couldn't. So yeah, we're finally sort of literally, I mean, maybe 3 months shy of 4 years later, going and doing that. So it's like it's pretty significant to do.
It's crazy, because for me that whole period still was like a blur. Those 3 years molded into phased into one or something, and it really, whenever people say something like what you're saying now, that it has been 3-4 years that were just completely wiped out.
Look at the wrinkles in my eyes, man. It's fucking like the age has happened. Time has passed.
Yeah. But luckily, as I said, we have something nice that came out of it in Charcoal Gray, so that's awesome. Jim, I thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me.
No worries, Robin. Thanks. It was a fun chat. Thank you for your lovely questions. They were great.
Thank you.